Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. and the United States as we look around the globe looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And it's just a plethora of different products and services that really are making a difference. Many of those we overlook and we just don't understand how they fit into the scheme of delivering humanitarian aid, or as in the case of the Power for Peace, how do we deliver the technologies and the products into communities before a disaster even strikes. One of those really is freight forwarding, something that's critical. You can't get your products abroad or have imports within to your own country without it. And have a gentleman sitting here that's going to explain all that. And his name is Travis T.M. Cook, LCB. He's going to explain what that means. It's very important. He is a learned man. He's a senior account manager with the American River International. He's sitting with me, and Travis, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Great. Appreciate the invite. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being with us, and tell us a little bit about the American River International, and then let's talk, what is a freight forwarder after that?
Sure. American River Logistics is a full-fledged freight forwarder as well as a broker. Been around since 1982, and since then we've opened up many offices throughout the U.S., Chicago, LA, Miami, and multiple partners throughout the world, so every major city. Whether it's down in Africa, you're in Kenya, if you're in London, we have partners that we've been working with for over 30 years now.
Now this is something, Travis, that most people don't really realize. You're one of those services that really is almost hidden from view unless you're actually in the business.
Correct.
Or you're actually a major NGO, non-government organization that's been shipping for quite a length of time, because new ones really are not familiar with all of this. Why a freight forwarder, and why do you need a middle person to be involved in a transaction, say between Japan and Nairobi, Kenya, if they want to ship humanitarian aid or technologies into Africa?
Well, it's a service that is provided to shippers and importers and exporters around the world. It's just like if you go into a restaurant and you want to go get food rather than cooking yourself, you're going to pay someone for that service for serving the food and cooking. So what American River does as a freight forwarder is, you guys have a shipment going from Japan going to Kenya, we go ahead and pick up that freight. We arrange the freight from door to door. We could arrange the pickup, the loading into an ocean container or an airline to their airplane, and then from there we could move it to wherever the destination is, the major port or airport, and we could get through customs. We show the shipper and the importer what documentation is required for customs clearance of that country, and from there, if they want it delivered or if they have their customer take care of pickup and delivery, that's what we do from there.
Well, looking at this whole thing as far as the freight forwarding and the services that you provide, when should someone become engaged with an organization like yours? Let's say that this is the pre-disaster idea. We're actually looking at humanitarian aid going into South America, Africa is the example we used earlier. When should we engage someone like yourself and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, we're actually chartering our nonprofit or we're a for-profit organization looking to ship, and so how do we know when is the proper time?
Once you're talking about shipping, you want to move from you want to know what your cost is. So you want to talk to a freight forwarder. You want to say, how much is going to get from my warehouse in Ohio going to the port of New York? And then if it's going to ocean, how much is it going to cost for the ocean carrier from the port of New York to the destination port, as well as going through all the different lanes through that supply chain. So you want to talk just on the cost basis, how much is it going to cost your freight, because it's going to affect your numbers at the end of the day. Yeah,
and the freight cost is one of those, but
Absolutely.
When you start doing all the add-ons, because I've done quite a bit of shipping over the years, and I'll get a invoice back and there's like 12, 15 different entries on that, port charges
Correct.
and all those kinds of things. So what else do we need to be looking for besides just the actual cost of the shipment itself?
In the classes that we teach, we get a lot of people that come in and say, we had a shipment, went to destination Z, and 10 weeks later we received an invoice from our freight forwarder and it was detention charges, and why are we getting it so late and we never knew about it? And we see that all the time, and one of the things you want to do is establish a relationship with your freight forwarder, with your broker. And from there, you want to go from what happens if it gets stuck. If customs holds it, someone's keeping the freight somewhere. It's not free. Everybody has their hand in it. So whether the ocean carrier keeps it in their yard after it's offloaded by the vessel, or the air carrier takes it off the plane and keeps it in the warehouse, they usually have about a 10-day free storage period, and then after that they charge, and it could be up to $120 a day. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you understand if there is somewhere in your supply chain where it's slowed down and there is going to be detention, what are those charges potentially going to be? So you want to make sure that you understand that with your freight forwarder. So you want to speak to them, understand that whole concept of how much is it going to be if this happens? What are the other possibilities? So usually we see storage at the other end with customs.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about, people have their hand in it, and in many cases it really is, it's the rule of law. There are these charges that they have in
Correct.
different countries. Every country is different, so you need to know about each country. And also at the same time, we need to be sensitive as far as the amount of time for it to actually clear customs. Now, this is something that's very confusing to many people, particularly if they're new in it, because they're saying, oh, we really have to get the clothing, we have to get the food, we have to get the medicine, to this clinic or into this country. Say the case of Haiti with the earthquake, and yet it goes and then it sits for 3 weeks, and people are calling day in and day out.
Absolutely.
So why are these delays, and is there any way to predetermine what the delays may be for different countries and factor that in as far as the activity?
There is. There's actually a few ways to do it. The one is going through government websites. You go to export.gov. You could go list by countries, by regions, and they have contacts there that you could contact yourself, and they could assist you with what documentation is required, and they actually show examples as well.
And is that for each country?
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, if I'm been shipping, say, consistently into somewhere in Africa, then all of a sudden I'm going to have activities in South America. It doesn't mean what I've been doing for Africa
Absolutely.
is going to be
Correct.
applicable to
Every country is
Guatemala or Honduras or
Correct.
El Salvador or what have you.
That is correct. And also your freight forwarder. If your freight forwarder has been shipping to that region, they already know what's required. If it's a new product for them to ship, example, you're a new customer and you're shipping to going to Kenya and we've never shipped your relief goods to Kenya, what's required? Certificate of donation. So they should have an office over there or a partner overseas that they could go back to and rely on to ask that information, as well as who you're shipping to. So you could go back to your customer or the charity and say, have you received relief goods or have you bought other products before? What were the documents that you needed? So you want to do everything proactive. You want to make sure that you do your due diligence ahead of time before you just ship your goods, because once it gets there and there's a delay, you're going to have those storage charges build back up again.
Yeah, and some people, have so many storage charges because they get into the middle of all this. They do not really have a reliable partner in country.
Correct.
And so oftentimes the actual charges as it builds up over time can be more than the actual value of the shipment. How do we avoid that? Is there any way to make sure that as we're doing this, we want to look and really assess, should we really be sending these goods into this country, that we have the potential for this type of shipping, the insurance and the cargo charges, and then it may be better just to send money or to have some other kind of donation into that country?
Absolutely. That's why you want to do your homework ahead of time. You want to speak to multiple forwarders. You don't want to just go to one. You want to go about seeing what the requirements are. What are the costs? Again, if you go back to the different areas, how much is the U.S. freight going to cost? How much is the international freight going to cost? How much is your marine insurance? Do you have a contract for insurance directly with an insurance broker, or are you going to go through your freight forwarder? So you want to make sure that you have everything, you know what the costs are going to be. What are the costs going to be at destination? Are you covering the cost? Because if you're selling goods, what is your Incoterm? What's your responsibility? So you want to make sure that you have all that in line. If it's relief goods, you want to make sure that relief goods are relief goods, that it's accepted, you have the certificate of donation, and what are the original documents required. If the freight could get there, everybody has copies of the documents, but you might have the originals on your desk. And if customs wants the originals, how long is it going to take for you to send, whether it goes mail or a courier service, to that destination? You know, when they get
and then again, the fees just keep building up no matter what.
You have everything. So you want to make sure that you know what's required, documentation, what's the transit times, what are the Incoterms, everything from there. So.
Yeah, looking at this as far as the transit times and clearing it, what type of personnel should you have in country that's going, say it's going to Kenya or South Africa, Guatemala, any of these different types of countries? What kind of person really should be on that side, you know, of the shipment to make sure that it really clears properly, as effectively and efficiently as possible?
Well, if you're doing DDP, which is delivery duty paid as an Incoterm, you're responsible for the clearance, delivery, and so you want to make sure that you're using a partner there. So if you're giving it to a U.S. freight forwarder, if you're a U.S. customer here, and they're just going to hand it off to someone over there, you want to make sure that they're using a freight forwarder that they've done business with, that they know could clear that good. So you want to have someone that relationship established. And as a shipper here in the U.S., you want to ask your freight forwarder, challenge them. Who are you using overseas? Is it your own office? Do you have a partner? How long have you been a partner with? You want to just go by off word, question them. There's nothing wrong. You're doing your due diligence. You know, it's your freight. So you want to make sure it goes to where it has to go as smoothly as possible, cost effectively.
Well, let's say I'm a community of faith. I've never really done this before, you know, a church, mosque, temple, what have you. And we really don't have meaning that organization doesn't have an established relationship in country. Can they actually hire the freight forwarder to do all that work in country for them and then just pay those fees up front? Or do they have to have someone in country as well as the freight forwarder? Every
country is different. So again, depending where you're shipping to, you want to make sure that you do your due diligence. What's required for import? Can the importer import it themselves? Do they need to use a broker that's licensed? So you want to check where you're going to, what countries, what's required. Some countries require that the importer of record is literally in that country. Example, Mexico. Mexico doesn't allow a foreign importer of record, where in America you do. So there's different requirements just on the importation side of regulations. So you want to make sure that you're asking your forwarder or your importer over there if they've done it before.
Yeah, looking at, we had a number of questions we wanted to go over, but I tell you, it's just, it's such an intricate thing that you're doing, and most people really just don't understand this process. Sure. And they don't realize how much in advance you need to be planning. So we have only about 1 minute left. Just go through a little bit about this pre-planning so that people actually are prepared, and let's really be very detailed about how much time, not country, but how much should they really invest in making sure they're ready to do this when they start shipping these goods abroad?
A lot. You want to do your research. There's many search engines out there. You want to go see what you could do. You want to do ask multiple forwarders. You want to ask multiple importers overseas. There's many organizations that you can network through, whether it's for a freight forwarder as well as for NGOs or other people in the business. So.
Okay. Well, I tell you, it's just fantastic, and we're going to have a number of other people coming on with us. Travis Cook, who is the Senior Account Manager of American River International, talking about freight forwarding and something that everyone needs to be aware of, and there are organizations involved in if you're trying to reach overseas. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
What's wrong with this picture? Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Geography is everywhere. It's incredible creatures, rhythm, fashion, flavor. It's economics and politics. It's change. Understanding connections between people and places is critical in the 21st century. That's why we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free parent and teacher action kits and give our kids the power of global knowledge. Because kids who understand our world today can succeed in it tomorrow.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we talk about all that, but really people are the core of all of this. And how do we make things work? And what are we looking for as far as delivering the best technologies and products possible into communities of real and dire need? As we know, there are thousands of children that die on a day-to-day basis just because of the lack of clean and abundant water. And so there are companies that really have focused on that particular aspect of humanitarian aid, international development, as we call it through the Emerald Planet on the Power for Peace, is pre-disaster planning. And we have an expert that's with us. She's the United States Division Manager for Portable Water Systems, and her name is Martha Paula McAley, a good Southern name, so it'll be hyphenated. And welcome, and thank you for being with us, Martha Paula.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we're going to go right in and talk about your organization. And I should say that actually you're representing a company that's headquartered in Mexico and is now expanding in the United States and around the globe. And I should also introduce Travis Cook, who's sitting beside me. He's a senior account manager of American River International. And Martha Paula, in case we lose you by Skype, we're going to have Travis pick right up and keep moving on. So I want you to know he's in the studio with me in case we lose our feed from you.
Excellent.
Going on, what is the organization Portable Water Systems Industries? And you can also give the name in Spanish if you like, because we have quite a following in Latin America.
Yes, Industrias Osmosistemas is a company that was founded in 1990. And Victor Morales Rodriguez is the CEO. Through his travel, he realized that there were over 780 million people without potable water. And that was something that, being with his experience and his technology and his capabilities in the private sector, he realized that he could do something for the world. And that is how Portable Water System, PWS, came to be, so that it could reach those far-reaching disaster areas, locations that don't have potable water, and be able to produce water for the people that don't have it.
Yeah, there's, as you're saying, actually the numbers of people that absolutely do not have water is dropped below 1 billion. You gave that figure, but then if you look at just the whole notion of just dirty water, then it quickly goes back up to well over 1 billion people. And what I'd like to do is bring up this first slide to show some of the technology, Martha Paula, and we're going to, one way or the other, minimize, hopefully, the get this slide up here. But let's go to the next question. How did your organization come up with this idea for the portable systems? I know that your CEO was traveling around and saying, hey, we need to have this out there. But that's a far cry from saying people need it to actually being able to manufacture and get something delivered on site.
Absolutely. Well, he is an engineer, and he has a great large experience in this sector. In considering the needs of the world, he put 7 technologies together, and the technologies take water, any brackish water. It could have basically dead animals, or all the way to just dirty water from a flood through sewage contamination. And he put all of his knowledge together to make it all compact in a trailer that can be taken in the back of a car or a truck. It can be put into a container, or it can even be taken through a helicopter into the areas that are in the most need after a disaster.
Well, looking at this trailerized equipment, it's very compact. It certainly is toteable and portable in a way, as long as you have vehicles on site. And I would assume you could actually probably use four-wheel drive and four-wheel vehicles like SUV type to put this out there. Looking at the system that you have, What is the number of gallons that could be produced through one of these systems on a daily basis? And what is the energy source for these?
The energy source comes from a generator that has a gas intake of 2 liters of gas per hour of usage. If it's to be installed in an area that would be more permanent, you can use municipal energy. However, this was really mainly made for disaster. There's 9 gallons of water per minute. That means that it was designed to be able to give 2 liters a day for 1,000 families of 5. That means 5,000 people will have the World Health Organization 2-liter standard for their intake of 5.
And you were saying, Martha, Paula, that actually this is just really any type of water can be as contaminated or dirty as an imaginable. What about brackish water? Was that included in your litany of the waters that can be filtered?
Yes, brackish water is, this desalination is not meaning that you don't want to put this with salt water because it doesn't have the power to do it, but we do have a model that is larger.
Okay, so there is a model that handles that. Looking at Mexico as being considered a middle-income country, that would be a surprise to many of our people. There's great development going on there. Why is Mexico now becoming a model for evolving these types of technologies for export to developing countries around the globe?
Well, as you know, Mexico has the history of not having good water, and when in face of a problem and having wonderful educated individuals in the country, they came up with solutions. And that solution we're now able to share with the world.
Well, I think that this is something that's really important for people to understand, that Mexico has made great strides over the last 20 to 30 years as far as the income levels. The number of citizens are actually coming back into the country to find jobs there because the economy is growing. It's really exciting what's happening, in Mexico, and how, Mexico, the United States, and Canada are becoming even more compatible with each other in terms of employment and jobs, and also green engineering.
Absolutely. NAFTA helped that cause, and it has allowed us to use a lot of American-made products in the manufacturing. So we work hand in hand with the United States to create TVIS as a potable water system.
Well, I think that's that's also good politics too, is where you're using goods that are manufactured and in NAFTA and actually exporting it out through Mexico. So I'm sure there are many workers in the United States are very appreciative for your organization and what you're doing. But going to the environmental nature of your product, what makes it environmentally friendly, and how are you actually helping the environment, the climate, through the technology that you have through the portable water systems?
Yes, well, we are disaster relief, meaning we take water that has no use for the people that are there at the time, and we use the same water through filtration without having chemicals put into it, without having any biocides or anything like that. We use that water and we clean it, and we provide that ability for the individuals in the communities to get healthier, and then as they're healthier, they can move forward and develop their communities. The fact of the matter is that after a disaster, if the disaster didn't kill you, the water will. And the way that we are making a difference environmentally is we're keeping sanitation, we're keeping health, and we're providing the staple that a community needs to develop itself.
Well, I think this is really, and it fits very nicely in with both the pre-disaster and not just waiting to an actual disaster happens to an area, Martha, Paula. Looking at what is the types of technology that you're using. I think you mentioned that, and we went off air just momentarily through the Skype connection. What kind of treatment are you actually using, since you're saying it's not chemicals, to
Yes.
purify the water and deliver it in a safe manner to the clients?
We have multimedia filtration, carbon filtration. We also have ultrafiltration and reverse osmosis. And finally, we have an ultraviolet light that finishes off any possible pathogens or anything that might have been polluted into the water. Also minerals and things like arsenic are taken away from all these different processes.
We know that we're talking about many very dirty water sources where you're bringing this in and doing the filtering and then purifying the water. How long do these membranes, these filters last in the equipment, and are you actually training people at the local site so they can maintain their own equipment?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, it's very simple to operate. Everything has signage in the language of the country where this is going to be dropped off, or if the people don't have literacy, there's symbols and numbers with a very easy to follow flow map. In addition, there is a satellite telephone included in each of the plants that can be used via battery. It has a battery already included, and they can call in if they have any questions 24 hours a day. This is a plant that will treat different waters at different levels. So when it comes to the time and the length of usage, it will range depending on how dirty the water is. But the great thing about it is that it has a bilateral filtration system that will allow for the plant not to have to stop operation while it's being backwashed, meaning 2 filters are working while the other 2 are being washed, and vice versa, extending the lifetime of the plant. The lifetime of the plant is around 5 years, using it for 1,000 families, 5 members of the family, meaning 5,000 people being serviced with 2 liters of water a day.
Well, thank you for being with us. We're about ready to lose you, Martha Paula, because we're getting ready to exit out here. Thank you for being with us. You did an excellent job in talking about the portable water systems, and we're just pleased that you're working in the United States as the division manager. This is Martha Paula McAlley. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped off money. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water.
At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site.
That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff.
You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we look around the globe for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the products and the services, and the people, of course, that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. We're looking at the various technologies and the services and the products that really are making a difference. They're unique, they're creating and meeting needs that have been identified in the developing world. And it's most interesting as we reach out into the developing countries, how that actually these technologies are being used back in the developed world, such as the United States, Canada, Mexico, and other countries that have indigenous peoples that really have needs on site. We're bringing in with us Daniel W. White, who is the International Missions Coordinator. It's called Clinic in a Can, and Daniel, we welcome to you. And,
thanks so much.
And he's part of the Hospitals of Hope. And also sitting beside me is Travis Cook, who is here, Daniel. In case we lose you, he's the Senior Account Manager, American River International, and he's probably been one of the guys helping to get your clinics in the clan overseas. But we have your slides here. And I know you're coming in by Skype, and if we happen to lose you, Travis is going to fit right in, and we're going to continue on. But tell us a little bit about what is Hospitals of Hope?
Sure. Hospitals of Hope is a nonprofit that's been around for about 14 years. Got started with work in Bolivia, and then we started Clinic in a Can, most recently doing it full-time about 2 years ago, when we saw the need after the Haiti earthquake for just structures for medical personnel to be able to work in that basically provide a clean, durable structure for them to really do their quality work instead of a tent or some building that's been changed into a clinic there on site.
Well, looking at the first slide we have here, I mean, this is a very attractive examination room in one of your actually clinics in the can. And when I first heard this, if I hadn't have been on site to actually see it, I would think there's actually something else that, you know, I just couldn't believe what you're doing, because these are actually 40-foot containers, steel, and these things are sturdy. They're built really like tanks because they're going all over the globe. But you see what an attractive interior they are. And then what I'm doing, Daniel, because I know you can't see this, we're moving right into a triage area in one of these clinics in a can. Tell us a little bit about this, how you select the equipment, and how do you make these things look like they're in you know, millions of dollars building?
Sure. Well, we are all about quality and making a product that is really the best possible environment that medical practitioners can use, whether it's in the States or in the middle of South Sudan with no other infrastructure. And so really we try to build everything up to U.S. code, and we basically, the 40-foot clinic container has 4 rooms, or 4 rooms. One is a mechanical room, and then 3 rooms that can be customized according to the client's needs. So the standard one has 2 exam rooms and then a laboratory/pharmacy, and that's kind of will meet most of your basic needs just for a basic clinic. But we have also done ones with dental suites, with surgical suites, with radiology suites, restrooms, offices. Basically, whatever the client needs, we're able to put in there in either a mix of donated equipment or new equipment that we purchase.
Well, I tell you, this unit we're looking at here, and this actually looks like it could be both an examination and operations theater. This is very attractive. We're switching over now to where there's an overhead perspective on this showing the interior layout, and I believe this is an actual operating theater. So looking at something that's 40 feet by 8 feet, Those are tight quarters, but actually it's very effective the way you have this laid out. Daniel, are you there? I think we just lost Daniel on Skype, so what we're going to do is pick up. I have Travis sitting right here beside me, and as soon as we're able to get Daniel White, the International Missions Coordinator of Clinic in a Can. But looking at this unit right here, what do people need to be prepared for when they're wanting to ship something like this abroad?
Well, the unit itself is actually a 40-foot container, like he said, so it takes up the same amount of space as if you are just going to fill up a 40-foot container with whether it's relief goods or medical goods, and it was going to be shipped overseas. So you're just pretty much telling them that you have a 40-foot container and what it is. So it's pretty much just a room full of supplies. So you're not just going to ship it as is. If it's going to be ready to use, you want to make sure everything is latched down inside, everything's put away, and what is inside, because the contents of that container itself might require some certain requirements. For example, in this case, you have medicine. You might have certain requirements for export from the U.S. as well as import into that country. If you have any medical equipment, you might want to see if you have the same thing, export licenses, because the U.S. regulates that on the export side.
Yeah, and looking at this too, Travis, and then I believe Daniel's back with us. Actually, whatever open space you have in there, you can actually stack in medical supplies and other types of equipment that may be very important on the other end in the country which has a disaster. Or this may be a brand new unit and you're actually shipping a brand new hospital into areas that have no medical care. Daniel, welcome back to us, and we were just talking about the shipping requirements, so Travis covered for you very well. But we're looking at one on site right now where it's actually been delivered into a country. This actually looks like it could be in Haiti, just looking at the vehicles being used. Once you get it in country, then what do you do as far as Clinic in a Can? Are you handing this off to groups within country, or do you actually take it to installation and physically opening the structure so it can be used to provide the medical and or the dental services?
Sure, yeah. When we send it, we basically send it in, get it through customs, and then we can go down and install it, or a client can install it themselves. It's basically built so that everything is completely ready to go out of the box. So you set it down on a pad, you are able to then just open it up, turn on the generator, and everything is good to go. So, sorry I'm having more technical difficulties here with the train going by, but
well, they wanted to know, the train wanted you to know that they were passing through, Daniel, so at least we know what it is. I'm a great fan of trains. But looking at this container that we have here and going to this next slide, this is a very attractive logo that you have on the side of this. How many of these can you actually put together to come up with a full clinic or even a hospital?
Our standard one is 140-foot, but you can put together as many of those as you'd like. So we've sent some that have 3 units that are all in one U shape, and then they function as a full hospital or community medical center. One that we just sent to South Sudan has surgical suites, has radiology, it has 3 medical exam rooms, dental offices, and so really you can put them together in whatever sort of arrangement that you'd like, modularly, or you just have one. So they're very versatile, and really one of the other great advantages to this is that you can ship the entire clinic there. You don't have to import supplies. You don't have to import the equipment. You've got the building, the supplies, the equipment, everything that arrives on site right there, and you're good to go right as soon as you open up the clinic.
Well, going back to this Clinic in a Can, I just love that name, and Actually, it really doesn't do justice to what you're doing, because you really are shipping complete clinics and hospitals into countries that really need them, particularly in a place, say, as South Sudan, Haiti after hurricane, and many other countries that you're working in. What was the brain trust of bringing this to fruition? And we're down to about 2 minutes. How did this evolve out of this Hospitals for Hope idea and organization to bring up this clinic in a can?
Sure. We basically saw the need for portable, very easy to get on-site sort of clinics that will last a long time and are durable. So after seeing all of these containers around the world, we decided, hey, that's a great sort of structure to build the clinic out of. It's strong, durable, and there's already the infrastructure to ship them. So we started some research and development, and were able to make this product. And so it's made out of used shipping containers. We're recycling those. We use as many green materials as we can, and then we've just put out our first solar clinic that is fully solar powered, and so that can be shipped anywhere in the world, dropped on site without any other infrastructure that you need, and ready to go. So we're really excited about this, and really excited about using environmentally friendly means just to meet these needs around the developing world.
Well, I think it's just a fantastic what it is that you're doing as far as a clinic in the can through the Hospitals of Hope. And I think we're just about out of time. But where can people go to find out more information about what it is that you're doing?
There's a lot more pictures and information on our website at clinicinacan.org. And if you're interested, just go there, contact us, and we'd be happy to talk with you further.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to exit at this time and leave you, Daniel. Thank you for being with us. You did an excellent job in sharing an idea about what it is that you're doing. And thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing now. 127 consecutive.
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet, headquartered in Washington, D.C., with our studio broadcasting facilities here as well. And we're looking around the globe for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference in countries of real need. But at the same time that we have these products and services going into these countries, it really is challenging the developed world as far as how can we meet those needs. How can you take what actually exists, downsize it so we can start using renewable energy sources within these areas and bring about clean water, sanitation, all these other things that are related to healthcare, education, vocational instruction, and many of the other areas that bring about a higher quality of life, a higher standard of living in these different areas. And we have, in our search for the various technologies, I came across something at the Aid and International Development Forum, and it was something, it was called Back the Pack, now being rebranded as Pack H2O. And we have with us coming in for Skype right now, and I guess we need to have a little time as we bring our guest in by Skype. But I'm going to introduce, sitting beside me, Travis Cook, who is the Senior Account Manager for American River International. And he's helping out as far as we're bringing in many people by Skype this evening. And let's go to this first slide that we have here. This is a product, Travis, that actually is being dozens, hundreds of these are putting into a container and shipped around the globe. So looking at the work you do as far as freight forwarder and shipping on shipments that are quite small, and let's say they have less than a full container load, say it's a quarter or a half even, how do they work with you and be able to get their product into these different countries at a time so it's not exorbitant or they're not shipping or trying to ship a container it's just half full?
Well, that's going to be an LCL shipment, less than container load. So what you want to do is when you're packing the freight in your warehouse, you're going to do a pretty much a pallet. So you're going to pack your freight onto a pallet, and it's going to be, you're going to have to give your freight forwarder dimensions, weight, and when it's ready for pickup. So if you have 2 pallets, you got to give them the full weight, the dimensions, and they'll be able to quote you because that freight forwarder should have consolidation rates going to that destination. So pretty much from there, they're going to go, it's going to be, you get more of a better rate with volume. So if you're able to consolidate and hold it until you have enough orders to fill a container, it's going to be cheaper per kilo or per pound. If you're going to be doing just an LCL shipment, you want to go out, ask your freight forwarder, how many ocean carriers did you go to? Did you go to all the big guys? Do you have best rates with these carriers? So you want to question them as well. Who are they using, and also transit time, and as well as ocean freight, air freight. If you're going to send it air freight because it needs to be there immediately, then you're going to have to do that because you could have a 1 to 2 day transit time where ocean could be 30, 60 days depending where you're going to and where it's coming from.
And then Travis, we need to make sure that we have all the proper paperwork.
Correct.
And of course when you have an LCL, this is something that there may be multiple layers of paperwork involved.
Correct.
But we have with us Skardar Griffin, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer, and this is the Griff Inc. They're headquartered and have their manufacturing and warehousing facilities in Ohio. And Scott, I believe you're with us now by Skype.
Yes, I am, Dr. Hancock. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for being with us. And we have those fantastic slides you have. And right now I have a side-by-side up that's showing your Pack H2O and then the traditional way of jerry can on the back of a very young lady. So tell us about this idea of this Pack H2O. You're a very large company. You manufacture, you ship, you distribute. You're in, I believe I remember, 45 different countries. And yet you have this very ingenious product that you really are promoting in a very aggressive manner. Tell us about this Pack H2O and why.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. And yes, we are a company of some size. We've been around 137 years, based in Delaware, Ohio, or the Midwest. And really it all started post-earthquake, we were invited by the Clinton Foundation to come in and begin helping them do some work. And we were down there with my CEO, David Fisher, doing some water projects. We were actually building some schools and putting some rainwater harvesting systems on. And one of the things that we saw was even after all of our good effort to create access to clean water, we would see these women and children still showing up with buckets and jerry cans and moving the clean water back to their home. And many of these women and children would travel great distances back to where they live. David and our company looked at this as a challenge that we wanted to address. We wanted to do something about really that last link, what we call the Achilles heel in this water chain of moving from the source to the home. And that's really how it started. We saw a significant challenge, and we felt our company had some capabilities that we could bring to bear, and we set out to design a better way.
Well, looking at the slide we have here, this woman looks like possibly in Kenya. I'm just guessing by the clothing and the area. And looking back at this other side-by-side slide where we have the jerry can on one side and the pack H2 on the other, you really understand what the struggle that these young people go through. And as we understand it, Scott, in many of these countries, it could be 1.5 miles, 2 miles one way to pick up actually not clean water, but dirty water. And at the same time, they're actually missing going to school.
Exactly. I think that challenge and that burden is well known and well documented. Hundreds of millions of hours are spent by women and children in developing economies to move water from the source to the home. And the picture you're looking at is a lady by the name of Esther. And Esther is from Kenya, so very good on recognizing her country from her dress. And from a little girl, she bared the burden of carrying the water multiple miles and multiple hours in the morning and again in the evening. And with our partners, Operation Blessing, we've brought a number of packs into that country and have begun doing trials. I'm happy to report that the progress and the results of those trials have been very successful. The adoption rate has been quite high. And the performance of the packs were where we had hoped. So yes, Esther she's a big fan of the pack.
Well, looking at this next photograph here, and again side by side, but as we know, many of the containers are being used by people actually are harmful to health, dangerous, and many of these have a lead paint or harsh chemicals of one kind or another. Very hard challenge as far as trying to keep them clean. So looking at the pack H2O, tell us a little bit about the structure of it. We know it looks like a backpack, but I know there's much more to it than that.
Well, yeah, you've noted a number of challenges. One is we tried to move the weight from the head to the back, and the backpack was designed in a manner to do that. And it's the body is much more capable of more efficiently carrying the weight. And we won't get into the details of all the studies that validate that. So the backpack does that. The other point you bring up is this issue of many of the containers that are brought to the water sources had prior contents in them. So it might have been lube oils or agrochemicals. And those prior contents create all kinds of problems because those trace elements are still present in the structure of the plastics. So the backpack is a for-purpose product. The prior content is not an issue. And then the third element is really critical in that the pack is designed so that the liner can be removed. And by removing the liner and air drying it and simply using solar disinfection, you really break that waterborne pathogen cycle that's such a problem in developing economies. It allows people to very quickly and efficiently clean the backpack so that they replace the liner and return back to the source. It's clean. So those are three challenges we tried to address with the backpack.
Well, looking at this and the fact that you can actually manufacture, warehouse, and ship on your own, really is a great benefit for your organization, because you really, from start to end, you can guarantee the quality of that and know exactly what's being shipped and shared with people in these developing communities.
Well, we certainly aim to have that, and I appreciate the comments prior of the person giving some guidance on transportation and logistics in that last mile. And the pack is essentially, when it's packed, it's 1/7 the size of a jerry can and 1/10 the weight. So when you're dealing with a disaster where things are often air freighted in or transportation is at a premium, we can get much more of these items in quickly. So there's certainly an advantage there. The other thing is I'd like to point out that one of our objectives is that the pack presents a path for enterprise. And the way the pack is designed, it's designed so that it can be sold in local economies or serviced in local economies. But if you look at it, that product can also be produced in local economies. You can set up micro production. So we tried to, certainly Greif will bring all our capabilities to bear. We are in, I think, 52, 56 countries. We've got over 300 manufacturing assets, so we do have an ability to scale to address this need.
Well, as you know, Scott, your travels abroad in many countries, 85% of the small businesses is almost the employment of choice or the employment of need, and most of those are actually headed by women. And of course, females in these areas, whether young girls or adult women, are the ones in most cases responsible for retrieving and delivering the water into the home because the lack of the infrastructure there. So it's really great that you're looking at this as an employment opportunity. And really, Scott, what you're looking at is a green employment opportunity with the style and the format and even the products that you're using.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the environmental footprint of the product, it's designed in a way that it's fully recyclable. You know, if you look then at the transportation benefits, the carbon benefits, the ability to move more than you can with traditional methods, yes, there are some significant environmental advantages with this product.
Well, we're just about out of time. It goes quickly on the Emerald Planet as we are looking around the globe and dealing with these various products. What would you like to share about how people can actually contact you, Scott, and get involved?
Sure. I'd really like to, in closing, highlight a partnership that we've formed with Impact Economics. They're a group of entrepreneurs focused on doing social good, and they've set up a website for us, www.packh2o.com. Please visit that site and learn a lot more about how you can get involved in helping us solve this issue.
Okay, Scott, thank you for being with us, and thank you, dear viewer, for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet. Oh, and we're going to go out, and we still have the logo here for Greif up on our site, and I know that you can actually reach them on the internet through that area.